Alright guys, we gotta talk about Joker Folie, Deux, so stay tuned. What's going on, guys? My name is Chris. Welcome back to The Well-Rounded Dude. If you like videos about films, we talk about films a lot, pop culture. If that's your thing, drop a like, hit subscribe, help support us. We're a small channel trying to grow and would greatly appreciate it. Now, getting to Joker Folie, Deux. I saw the film last night, and you know, after reading some reactions and hearing some people talk about it, I felt I had to share the same thing. I was a big fan of the first movie from 5 years ago, from 2019. I thought the movie was really well done. I consider it one of the best made comic book movies, even if Arthur Fleck's Joker isn't typically what we think of when we think of the Joker, you know, Batman's arch nemesis. So, with that being said, I was at the same time excited and perplexed that when it was announced they were making a sequel. I felt the original ended on a good note, didn't really need much of a follow-up, but, you know, when a movie grosses $1 billion, they're going to try to turn it into a franchise. And, you know, I trusted everybody going in to try to make the best movie possible with the sequel. Then came the news that they were turning it into a musical. Now, a lot of people had some weird reactions to it, saying, oh, they were turned off by the idea of it being a musical. Now, me being a fan of the original, I could see it wasn't the most far thing out there to me personally. The original Joker, it left you with the impression that Arthur is not a reliable narrator of his own story, right? And a lot of his actions came from music. He would dance a lot in the first one. So for it to be a musical in this one, it didn't seem like that far of a stretch to me. It could fit in the story, even though I still thought it was a little bit weird. So they cast Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. That makes news, and I'm like, okay, they're leaning into the musical bit. Now, when the movie's released and seeing some of the reactions, the first thing that I see from people who hate it is that it's a musical, like they were surprised or caught off guard. And I don't understand that, and I feel that's where a lot of the negative reaction comes from, is that gut punch of like, oh, they're singing in this. Now, this isn't your typical musical, and it's a little bit different how it plays off and how it starts off. Now, and this is where some spoilers may come in, so be forewarned if you're going to go see it and you don't want to see any spoilers or hear any spoilers, then this is probably the part where you want to turn off. But, you know, the movie opens up with Arthur Fleck in prison for his crimes committed in the first movie. Actually, he's in Arkham as a state hospital. And he is kind of back to where he started, pretty much, at least emotionally, from the original movie, you know. He's not treated well, he's taken as a joke, abused, and that all kind of changes when he meets or sees Harley Quinn for the first time. She's in a music class that he happens to pass by because they're preparing him for his trial. And, you know, she clearly knows who he is. She kind of does the whole, you know, the from the first one, and you know, it sparks an interest. From then, that's where the musical starts, and I think a lot of people are missing that point. Like, he wasn't fantasizing about music or singing or anything at this point in the movie until he up until this point, I should say, until he meets Harley Quinn. And from then on out, music plays a big factor in this movie. So once Arthur sees Harley Quinn in the music class, that is where the musical, quote-unquote, begins, right? He starts to have fantasies about song and dance. A lot of times, he's having these fantasies of him in his Joker makeup, right? Because this isn't the kind of musical where, you know, the janitors and the Arkham guards and whoever else is in there, the doctors, break into song and dance with him and they know the next verse of the song. It's not like that. It's just straight up his fantasy. There are a couple of numbers where Lady Gaga and Joaquin sing to each other that are not fantasy, that they actually take place, but they're less grand. They're not on a big grand scale, but there are a couple of big numbers between the two of them in Harley Quinn and Joker makeup. That being said, you know, in this movie, there are some subtle things where you see that Arthur is not 100% in to this Joker persona like he was towards the end of the original film. For one thing, his hair isn't dyed. His suits are a little bit more subdued. He does try, and he does wear his purple suit, or reddish purple suit, the one he wore in the first one. You know what I'm talking about. A little bit, but he never really gets back to being that character that he was at the end of the first movie. And by the end, he renounces that, and it loses him fans, it loses Harley, and it gets him stabbed. Spoiler alert. And one of the things that we may see is the creation of the real Joker, because in the background, while we watch Arthur bleed out, we see the inmate that stabbed him, like, cut his lips. Or his, you know, his face, and to make it more of a smile. And it's subtleties like that where I think it's people are missing those, like the little subtleties of this movie. Like Arthur's clothing is a little bit more subdued. You know, he doesn't have the green hair. You know, the guy in the background. Now, a lot of people did see that, and they're more upset over Arthur dying because and I understand that. They see it as Joker, you know, like Joker just got killed on screen. And I get that. But there's a lot of little subtleties that people are missing when they're seeing this movie. Now, how did I feel about the movie? I was conflicted when I watched it. I'm still a little conflicted. I'm just kind of like replaying it in my head and noticing certain things. I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense. But I can totally understand why people didn't like this movie. What I don't understand is this being caught off guard that it's a musical. I don't understand that at all. You know, and I can understand being upset at the ending. So, do I like this movie? I wouldn't say that I loved it. It's definitely not as strong as the original. It doesn't feel like this one is trying to make much of a point. But it still wasn't terrible to me. I don't think it's the worst movie I've ever seen. A lot of people are like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. And that kind of tends to be played out nowadays, right? If somebody doesn't like something, it's like, it's the worst thing ever. This isn't the worst thing ever. Do I wish they went in a different direction? Of course. But it is what it is. You can't change it. It's out there. I think there are worse movies out there. I think that this one will gain a little traction like years later, like in years to come, that people may think a little bit more fondly about this one, like notice certain things and become maybe more of a cult classic than what it's getting right now. People are just having like that gut visceral reaction to what they just saw. But I think later on we're going to see, you know, people come around a little bit more. Now, do I think you should go and see it? Well, my guess is your mind was already made up. If you were going to go see Joker before, then go see it. If you like the first one, you know, it's worth tuning into the second one to see how it turns out. You know, if you weren't going to see it because you didn't like the original, then you're not going to like this one. I don't know what to tell you. Then stay home. Don't worry about it. It's decent for what it is, and it really could have been worse, to be honest. But if you're still kind of curious, don't let the bad reviews get you down. I think if you were, you know, on the fence and you're curious, I think it's worth checking out and drawing your own conclusion. You know now that it's a musical, okay? And you know that Arthur possibly doesn't make it out alive, because it could be that he lives. We don't know. It's kind of left. I personally think they were intending to end this, and it probably will be, but he could be dead. He could be alive. They could get him some medical attention and some stitches, and he could be ready to go. So I say give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? He may not like it, right? So that's my take on Joker Folie Deux. I would definitely categorize this movie as a disappointment, but I still kind of enjoyed it, if that makes any sense. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry if it was a little bit rambly. I just had to get this out. I have seen so much hate, like utter disdain, and seemed like a little bit of confusion from people. I just felt I had to give my own spin on it. But with that being said, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the social media things, help me fight the YouTube algorithm, ring the bell, and we will see you next time. We're going to keep it short here today. So take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed this bonus episode. Peace.